Alright, welcome back to Nick Lynch's Comic Corner Classic New Classics. This is episode number 1469 and Doubleshot number 1362. Now, once again, physical stuff, one Valiant trade and one Marvel trade. This first one, believe it or not, was the very first comic that when Valiant came back in 2012, they released. And it is also the longest comic they put out. This is the first of the collector's run. And you're probably thinking, wait, there's actually one book that's lasted more than a year or two? Yes, there is. Manowar, Volume 1, By the Sword. This collects the first 4 issues of the 50-issue run. Yes, as far as I can tell, there has been no explained reason why the heck that only this book gets 50 issues and like nothing else. This, simply put, is the reintroduction to Manowar, which, by the way, if you're asking about the original version of the character from his original run, he didn't do the stuff that Exo did. Nope, he spent a lot of the time operating in modern day New York. I don't think there's even an explanation. Maybe explanation issue 0. I haven't read issue 0 yet of how he got his suit. But the suit itself really does make it's the same exact suit they used in the original continuity. The only change they made to Exo is, well, for one thing, he's not called Manowar at the start of the series. No, he actually is called that a little bit later when he starts working with the U.S. government. Things starts off with him. Now, if you wonder what was his first appearance in the comic, he's doing this. Jumping. Yes, jumping. And apparently this first issue is also having the very first appearance of the Eternal Warrior. Yes, the Eternal Warrior makes his first appearance in here. One of 2 characters who basically later on had ongoing series made their debut in this very comic book. But here's the thing. He made his debut in issue 1. I can't find it. It was unidentified cameo. He made a full appearance in the pages of Archer and Armstrong. Yep. Now, excuse me, this is what we're talking about. This we have Arc of Tukula. That's basically what this guy is. Where here's what happened. He's basically with the Visigoths, and he's at war with the Roman Empire, and everything was fine until he gets abducted by aliens. Yes, he gets abducted by aliens, and then they kind of basically do alien stuff. In case you wonder, do they torture him? No, not really. He was a slave, and then later on he's able to escape. Then he's become an official host to the armor. After many of the aliens basically it rejects the host, he becomes the first human to become host to the armor that becomes the Manowar armor. And what does he do with this armor? He escapes with some people. And he goes back to Earth. And what does he find? That apparently about 500 to 600 years, like 1,000 years passed by, where it's modern day, and he says Rome, and he ends up in the Colosseum. And he crashes right through it, and he sees a bunch of tourists, and then he's surrounded by a bunch of Italian soldiers. And I mentioned, okay, where's the Roman Empire? Where's Visigoths? There's no empire anymore. Rome is just a city, and Visigoths are gone. Like, what? And then he's fired upon by the Italian Air Force. Yep, he destroys some missiles, and of course he was the first going to have the pilot from the actual jet fall, but he saves him. And then, of course, he flies away. But has a very interesting cliffhanger. Next up, it's a very interesting story arc, basically, to start off with. Yeah. And here's what basically, he also communicates with, the previous host. He says, next, enter Ninjak. Ooh, yes. Awesome. Now, this, of course, is what the rebooted version of the suit looks like. It's a little bit of minor changes they made to it. The helm looks pretty much the same from the original version. And mostly put, it's almost the same exact armor as the original version of Exo. And simply put, basically, it feels more like a regular X-Men War series. Now, I've been reading the original X-Men War, and it just basically a series set in the 90s. And here's kind of the strange thing. They have released a trade for it but only one. As far as I can tell, Valiant just stopped producing these trades, these Valiant Master Editions, which had Jim Shooter do a forward. I've read some of these issues; they're really good. Excuse me, I think I'll review them probably at a later date. But for the start of Valiant's longest running comic book, well, under the current initiative for that, the start of his longest run, it's really good. I give this book a 9.5 out of 10. Purely fantastic book, and can't wait to basically try out more of this series. Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you're going to ask, is it still $9.99? Yeah, it is. Yeah, and in case you're curious, though, yes, there is an X-Men Manowar series to watch right now. And no, it's not done by Rob. Now, basically, I almost forgot to mention, this book is done by Robert Venditti. He actually started this book just prior to starting his Green Lantern run. Yeah, I'd say like less than a year. Now you have Corey Nord, who does pretty much all the interior artwork here. Yeah, all this interior artwork, that's Corey Nord. Also, and this I found quite interesting when it comes to EXO, is that the trades actually include the original issue when it came out. Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. Marvel doesn't do that. Not even DC. They just basically just show the cover, but not with the cover. Actually, with the they don't show the price tag on them, which I'm glad this one doesn't do that. But it does show like what the cover looks like, what the price tag on it. It's mostly what it is. Yeah. Am I gonna review other trades for EXO? Probably. I mean, I'm planning to review more Valiant because I love Valiant stuff. There's no denying the fact that EXO is by far the best comic out of the entire line. It's probably by far the most profitable one. Now, after this book ended after 50 issues, it was relaunched under Crystal's Gauge, and it felt like a bit way different than what's Robert Venditti established. Like, there was a lot of stuff, basically. I mean, this feels like a good start to this run. That's basically what this arc feels like, a start. It doesn't feel like a complete story arc per se, but this feels like a good start to the run. There's a lot more stuff that could be explored over the course of this run. Like, of course, him working with a government agency, him getting a wife, and, of course, a lot more stuff. Yes. Though, the next volume that come right after this one, after this particular volume for EXO, yeah, it didn't last as long as, well, this volume did. No, it didn't. If you're curious to how long the original EXO lasted for, it lasted for 68 issues. So at least this volume has something in common with the original volume. Yep, it does. Oh yeah, and the cameo, the one that's saying, "Yes, my king." Apparently that is... Let's see if I can find it here. Let's see if we can find that character here. The one that says, "Yes, my king," and that apparently is the Eternal Warrior. Let's see if we can find it here. Oh, I found him. Yes, I just found him. That is the Eternal Warrior. That's his first appearance in Valiant. Yeah, so that is the first appearance of the Eternal Warrior. An identified cameo. Yeah, that actually is the Eternal Warrior, which is interesting to say the least. Alright, next up it is Marvel Masterworks The Amazing Spider-Man Volume 6. This collects issues 51 to 61 and the fourth annual for the series. Yes, the fourth annual. The first two issues are a continuation of basically what happened in issue 50, where it's just a storyline featuring the Kingpin and the fact Spider-Man's back, and basically he does start fighting the Kingpin. Of course, the Kingpin himself does come back for issues 59 to 61. It's a great three-parter where he takes the alias of the Brainwasher. Yeah, that's simply what those issues are. The fourth annual is simply put just Spider-Man battling Human Torch while take on the Wizard. That's the best thing happened in that book. Now, 54 to 56 is a three-parter where, of course, Spider-Man has a rematch with Dr. Octopus, and he gets amnesia. And you're probably thinking, if Dr. Octopus gets amnesia, and later attempts to Dr. Octopus says he's his partner, and he acts like he's the boss, that's why I think he's the partner. Yeah, it sounds like that two-part that happened in the Spider-Man animated series of 1990s. This three-parter was loosely adapted for that two-parter. Yeah, and get this. 57 is, get this, Spider-Man versus Ka-Zar. Yes, Ka-Zar. Yeah, and one of his, I think his previous appearance part of this, I think was the issue of Daredevil, if I'm not mistaken. Let me take a look here about that. Because I think his previous appearance prior to this very story, let's see. Because his first appearance was actually in the pages of Uncanny X-Men issue 10. Yeah, let's see. I'm looking up right now. So Ka-Zar's previous appearance for this very story was actually in the pages of Daredevil. Yep, made appearance in issue 24. And then he also appeared in issue... Like, he briefly appeared for about a couple issues here. For Ka-Zar. So it was interesting, though, that his previous appearance part of this was actually in the pages of Daredevil. Yeah, that was his most that was like, this is only his, like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is only his 6th appearance in comics at this point. Yeah, only his 6th appearance. He's also in the following issue, which also is the debut of the second Spider Slayer. Spencer Smith is back in this issue, and then of course Spider-Man beats the robot, and Spencer Smith as well. He does return after this several times. Like, oh my gosh, like, after this issue he doesn't return again until issue 105, when Lee comes back to book briefly. Yeah, so Spencer Smith is no longer alive. Nope. Yeah, he actually died back in issue 192. Yep. Yeah, he came back a couple times, but that's simply it for him. And, well, that's all to say about these issues. Yeah, surprisingly, there's no first appearance in here. We do have a continuation of it. The whole thing with the Dr. Octopus three-parter. Yeah, that simple Dr. Octopus have encounter with May Parker, which this layer says is something that happens later on in the run. Yep. So, oddly enough, there is technically no first appearances in here. Not really, no. The whole thing with the Brainwasher storyline, it basically outs Peter and Gwen Stacy as a couple in front of Gwen's father, George Stacy. Well, apparently he has no problem with them making it in front of him. Nope, no problem with it at all. And of course, Gwen, of course, got, well, heated with Peter over taking picture of her father robbing the police, well, records. And he basically explained to her that he had no choice in the matter. That's the reason why the picture was taken. Excuse me, yeah, but it's quite strange, though, that there's, like, no first appearances in here. Because that's the weird thing about these 11 issues. There's no first appearances. None. We have many returns. But first appearances? Not really, no. I thought that was kind of weird. But in the case of, if you think about annuals, there's still one more annual left that basically Stan Lee did. That was annual number 5, and that was it. Yep. It's still a really good book. Lee and, of course, John Mia Sr. are still doing the writing, doing the work in here. But yeah, great book. Yep. And it's now, I love the stuff of the Kingpin. I think he's next. Like, his stories, I always found his stories be so interesting. Because, well, it's the Kingpin. How can his stories not be interesting? He's never done technically a bad story. It seems like almost every time the guy shows up, it's always a good story. And he's one of those few villains who Spider-Man has fought who has no powers. Nope, no powers. He doesn't have a gadget. He's basically naturally really strong. Of course, everyone else currently, he's the mayor of New York. He's been the mayor of New York since like 2017. Yeah, just for a few years now. I would not be surprised if they somehow later have him step down as mayor, given how long the last mayor lasted for. He lasted for about 5 years. Actually, it was more like 4 years, basically, he was mayor. So do I think that Kingpin will step down anytime soon? Probably not. Not in the slightest. I don't think Marvel has any plans to remove him as the mayor of New York. Especially since that happened pages of Daredevil, not Spider-Man. Yeah, though some people might the weird thing about the Kingpin, because he's also he's also filming for Daredevil, people think that his first appearance was apparently that he was originally a Daredevil villain. No, that's never been the case. He's basically been in both Daredevil and Spider-Man. He's also fought, Captain America and Black Panther. But in the case of those two, Black Panther, he didn't fight him until actually back in like 2011. Well, it's actually a decade ago. Captain America's fought occasionally over the years, but mostly he's enemy for Spider-Man and, of course, Daredevil, and also the Punisher. Yeah, he's fought the Punisher. Punisher doesn't like him very Punisher and Kingpin do not like each other at all. And here's the strange thing about the relationship between Spider-Man and the Kingpin. He considers Daredevil more of a threat to him than freaking Spider-Man. And Spider-Man's got freaking webbing. He's got more powers than he does. Like, he has actual powers. Compared to Daredevil, he basically has his radar sense. And in fact, he's blind. Maybe because Daredevil was a martial artist. That's probably the reason why. Yep. So yeah, that's a particular view. And that's going to be it for videos tonight. Because I got no more plans for videos tonight. So, tomorrow, and I did check. Yes, there's going to be another episode for Combatants Will Be Dispatched. Thank you, Funimation. Releasing another episode for that tomorrow. So not only that, Eden Zero, One Piece, My Hero Academia, and Boruto. Roughly five anime tomorrow. I'm also going to do reviews for the new chapter Black Clover, if it comes out, and Blue Exorcist. Okay? Thanks for the video. Bye.